from the diary of my Grandma Fanny. September the 18th, 1942. Today, Marion got another little bicycle. It's been a very hot week. I cleaned out the pantry.
And welcome to Tuesday, and welcome for a extra special Tuesday. Normally you don't see me in my kitchen on a Tuesday video, but today I'm going to share with you a very traditional, very plain Mennonite recipe. And today it's dessert. Now you will not find many videos that I make on desserts, simply because I do not eat many desserts. It wasn't something I was accustomed to growing up, and it's something I've never done a whole lot of. But today I'm going to share with you this dessert. As you see where my hand is, this is an apple peeler. Now many people would not consider this a dessert, but in the traditional Mennonite families, apple crisp was a dessert. So I'm going to share with you how I make it. This recipe comes from one of my closest friends for a long time, and her name is Churn, and she is a practicing, very plain Mennonite woman. So she doesn't have the computer, she doesn't have TV, but she's taught me so many things about traditional ways of cooking. We are going to peel these apples, we're going to put them in some lemon water, and I'm going to show you how we make our apple crisp. It's a little bit different than what maybe you would find in some of the cookbooks. So I wanted to demonstrate to you how an apple peeler works. I found these apples in the refrigerator, and I will admit they are getting on the old side. They're probably at least 6 weeks old, even longer. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to peel the apples. So what the peeler does is it peels it and it makes it into little rings just like this, and it takes the core out. So you always want to put your apples in some lemon water so that way they do not turn brown. Alright, I'm going to get my bowl here, and I'm going to put these for the chickens. I know so many people said about using peelings and things like that to make apple jelly and things like that. I really am the only one who eats jelly here on the homestead, and I make all kinds of jellies that I like, and apple jelly is something I don't really care too much for. So I'm going to go down here and put it in my bowl. I always have a bowl sitting right here. People often said about how I always like dump things down here. Underneath this I have my trash can, I have my recyclable bin, and I also have my chicken slop bucket or compost bucket, depends on what part of the world you live in. So I'm going to pan this camera down and just show you a little close up as to how this peeler really works. Now if an apple is really soft, sometimes it will not work that well. These were Granny Smith apples. This is actually how I peeled all of my pears as well. See how pretty that gets? Then what I'll do is take a knife down the center and it will be all in slices. Then you release the handle and you have to pull the cord out. Now sometimes it can get really hard, like now, to pull the core out. So you have to be really careful. We'll go ahead and we're going to do all of these apples, and I'll just let you watch. Some of the apple peelers do not work very well. This is Victorio, the same that makes these strainers to make tomato juice. This is a little bit better grade, but still it's very reasonable price. It's not that expensive, and it can last a lifetime if you really take care of it. These apples were washed, of course. You also can do potatoes with it. Now, I generally don't use it for potatoes, but they say you can. You won't like this because it does leave a few of the skins on. It works for me. All right, let's get this last one done here. My mama would have been very impressed with this little gadget. Everything my mom did was from hand. Alright, so we're going to keep all of our apples in this water with some lemon juice until we are ready to put the pie filling in with them. So this apple crisp calls for a pie filling. So if you don't already have apple pie filling, you can make your own, and it's really easy. What we're going to do is we're going to take 2 cups of cold water. And to that we're going to add 4 tablespoons of cornstarch. I always add the cornstarch to cold water, and you add 1 at a time because you don't want lumps. So we add 1 tablespoon and stir real briskly. Let me pan my camera back down for you. So that was 1 tablespoon. And let's quick do the 4. Alright, so what we're going to do is, I'll show you, we have to stir it real brisk. We don't want lumps of cornstarch. And if you put it in your cold water, you're never going to have lumps. I'm going to add 2 cups of sugar. Alright, and we're going to stir that real well. And we're going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I'm just going to measure it by looks. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to heat this on the stove until it's real thick. And then we're going to put it over our apples, and this will be the apple pie filling that we use. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add some of my pears. Now these pears were more of a harder pear, and they taste a lot like an apple. So I'm going to add some of these pears as well to it. In fact, I don't think you're going to even taste the difference once it's in the apple crisp. So I'm going to go ahead and drain this, and we're going to add these pears to our apples. So the apple pie filling is very thick, and look how it's thick. See that? And that's what we're going to do. We're going to pour over our apples. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to turn this into the apples. See how that looks? Now we do have a little bit of pears in here as well. This is just to help it go a little further because I didn't have enough apples. But that's how the apple pie filling looks. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to pour our apple pie filling onto our casserole dish. And if I remember right, this is a 10 by 10 casserole dish. So that's how the apples look. Now we got to go ahead and we got to work on the topping. So the topping is 1 cup of melted butter, 1.5 cups of oatmeal, and 2 cups of flour. So let's go get the topping made, and then we can put it on top and we can get it baking. So I have flour in the bowl, and now I have to put my oatmeal in. If anybody did not see my pantry series, I'll share a link above me, and that way you can see how I store all of my foods like this. So we have 2 cups of flour, and it says 1.5 cups of oatmeal. And then it calls for a teaspoon of cinnamon, which I'm just going to measure by looks again. This is how I cook. So I figured, you know what, this is how I cook. You might as well see how I really do cook things. I just add a little of this and add a little of that. All right, we're gonna stir that around, see how pretty that looks. Now what we gotta do is add the melted butter, and then we pour this on top, and we're ready to put it in the oven. All right, now we're gonna add our melted butter to it. I'm gonna stir it real good. And we're just going to sprinkle it on top. It almost looks like granola. And I don't know about you, but the toppings is what makes things really good. So we're just gonna make sure we get it all in there. And then we have to bake it at 1 hour at 350 degrees. Now tell me that is not a pretty dessert. So I'll get back to you in an hour and show you what it looks like baked. Friends, this is by far the best apple crisp you'll ever try. Those Mennonite girls, they know how to cook. And if you think I'm exaggerating, give the recipe a try for yourself. You will be surprisingly delighted. Have it with a bowl of ice cream or a little whipped cream, and there you got yourself a fine dessert. Yum, yum. Take care, everyone. We'll see you guys tomorrow.